I certainly am, and here I am. Good evening, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Nina, that's great. I mean, that introduction, sometimes I think you're reading it. Sometimes I think you're doing it just off cuff. I'm just really impressed.
I never feel like I give you a good enough introduction. I always feel like you do a much better job of it. And like I said, people aren't here to listen to me, and you do a much better job. And I'm super excited to see your new setup. We were having a bit of a chat before, and it looks fantastic. So yeah, enjoy, everybody. I will see you at the end. And like I said, get those questions in the chat, and we will have some time at the end. See you all soon.
Great stuff, Lynn. Thank you very much, very much. I'm just going to spotlight myself here, just so you can see me full size. I trust you can all see and hear me, and I trust you all well. Hello from Scotland, says David. Stuff. Let me know where you are in the chat box. Come on then, let's get engaged in the chat box. My chat box is over here. I've got various cameras around in my studios, various screens in the chat box. Tell me where you're from, because at least I'll know. No, Claudia's from London. I've got someone else, Rashid from London. Okay, quite a few people from London coming on here. What else have we got coming in? Evening from Wales. Good evening from Wales. Welcome from Wales. Cumbria, the West Coast. Excellent. Good stuff. Warwick, all over. I was up in Warwick recently, actually. Hertfordshire. Good stuff. Lots coming in. Well, okay. Well, I am in, not so sunny at the moment, Winchester, down in Hampshire. That's where I'm based. We're based down here. Property CO Studios is here, and that's where we're broadcasting from this evening. So hopefully you can see and hear me. What are we going to talk about this evening? I mean, why are you all here? Well, I guess this is it, is it? Build wealth faster. Come on. Hands up there in the participant box. Who wants to build wealth faster? And I'm assuming quite a lot of hands are going to go up. Yeah, absolutely. Who wants to build wealth slower? I'm guessing none of you. Okay. You want to build things faster. Yeah, Claudia's put, yeah, absolutely. You want to build wealth faster. Why wouldn't you? If there's a way to do something quicker, why would you not go and do it? So I want to talk about that this evening. I want to go through building wealth faster. I want to talk about property development, and I want to talk about what that's about. So to start with, though, I thought I'd do something a little bit different. I thought I'd get you thinking about what wealth you want. What is your level of wealth? So are you up for getting engaged tonight in the chat? Not getting engaged. I'm not talking about, it's not a proposal. I'd be in trouble there, wouldn't I? Are you up for getting engaged in the chat box? If you can, that keeps me interested, keeps me excited, because I can see the chat box going on. Yeah, I've got some yeses coming in. And rather than me just talk to one of my cameras, I know that you're on the other side. So if you can get engaged, it's going to be really useful. So I want you to think about your wealth that you want. So we want to build it faster, but what do you want? So I'm going to get you to think about this place, okay? The beach. I'm going to call it the beach. The beach is wherever you want to be when you retire, okay? Whatever that is, whatever that retirement position is for you, where do you want to be? It might not be a beach, it might be in the woods, it might be sat at home not doing a lot, but just picture that. Picture that day that you're retired, you've got your feet up, financial freedom, whatever you want to call it. I want you to think about that. And I want you to think about, as I say, your retirement plans, okay? And I want you to think about what number that is. David's already in the chat box. 100K, please. Okay, David, I'll send that to you. What I want you to tell me in the chat box then, come on, David, a month, maybe it is 100K. How much do you all want a month when you retire? Put that in the chat box. Just give me a number of what you think. Even if you've not thought of it before, off the top of your head, how much do you want every month when you retire? Let's have a look. They're coming in the chat box now. Let's see what we have got. I've got a 10 in. I've got another 10. That's Dr. Dushel. Yuki's coming with 10. I've got another 10K from Claire. David's given me 20. I've got Claire, another 10. That's another Claire. Several Claires on by the looks of it. I'm not sure. Okay, I've got another 10. They're coming in quite quick now. Okay, I've got lots of 10s. I've got 12. I've got 15. Great stuff. Okay. Interesting. Lots of numbers popping in. Thank you. You want, a lot of you, I'm going to say the average there is 10,000. Okay, there's some 7s and 6s and stuff. £10,000 a month that you want when you retire. Pretty reasonable, I would say. Okay, I'd even be happy with 5 to 6. That's Claudia. Absolutely. Okay. Well, would you think about it? Okay. I want you to just think about, is 5 to 6 enough? Is 10 enough? Because think about when you retire, one day you might need a care home. How much does a care home cost? £1,000 a week? Is there 2 of you? £2,000? That's 8,000 a month. I'm not sure what the government gives us these days, but probably not a lot. Okay, whatever your number is, if it's 7, 10, 12, 15, whatever, grab yourself a calculator, okay? If you've got your phone, whatever. I'm going to type in, I'm going to use 10,000, okay? I'm going to use Colin. Colin's on here this evening, Colin G, okay? £10,000, Colin, that's your number. I want everyone to type their number into their chat box. Then what I want you to do, I want you to multiply it by 375, okay? 375. This 375, the rule of 375, write it down. Okay, hopefully you've got a pen and paper. Write that down. I want you to research this. When we finish tonight, don't go to bed, don't go and watch the telly. Just have a look up this rule of 375. Let me tell you what it is. This is what a lot of pension advisors will use as a very rough guide to tell you the size of pot or the size of money, lump sum of money that you will need when you retire. Okay, it's based on living for about 35 years after you retire, spending a bit more before and a bit less later. Okay, and a range of investments, whether it's into property, stocks and shares, Bitcoin, annuity, whatever. So what I want you to do is take your £10,000 and I want you to multiply it by 375. So I was using Collins, okay? Multiply it by 375. That's 3.75 million. Can you all see that there? Okay. So Colin, that is the lump sum, as a rule of thumb, that you need when you retire. Now, you might already have a chunk of that. You might have none of it. Who knows? Okay. In the chat box now, everyone tell me, and Colin particularly, if you will, how many years from now until you want to retire? How many years from now until you want to retire? Pop that in the chat box. Let's have a look. Let's see what we have got. See what numbers are coming in. Come on, you're quicker than that. 2 years, 15 years, 10 years. I'm waiting for Collins to come in as well. I want to see your Colin number. Collins, I'm working on yours. I've got 26 years. Okay, what else have we got coming in? I've got 10 years. I've got 5. Okay, too late. David said, too late. Sorry, David. Okay, David, we'll just have to try and help you the best we can. Louis got 8. What's Colin's number? Colin, are you still there? Mine is minus 15. 15 years ago is Phil. Okay, Phil, can't help you there. Where's Colin's? Colin's still on? I think Colin's still on. Colin, what's your number? Pop it in the chat box. Maybe Colin's had to disappear or something. I've got another 10 years coming in. I'm waiting for Colin's. If Collins doesn't come in, I'm going to work on 10 years. I'm going to work on 10 years, okay? Because we're going to keep the maths nice and simple. It might pop in a minute, literally as I say that. So if your number was 3.75 million and you've got 10 years, you have to divide that by 10. You have to make or earn £375,000 a year. Does that make sense? You need to be thinking about the lump sum of cash that you need, okay? You may already have a bit of a portfolio. You may already have a bit of income. But I want you to just be thinking, Colin says, I retired 5 years ago. I'm F something something D. Not sure what that is, Colin. There's a word in there that I can't make out. Obviously, lots and lots of stars. Okay. But Colin, think about it. Okay, I don't know what you've got. Thanks for putting that in, Colin. But you know, maybe there's time, maybe you can do something over the next 5 years. You know, you might retire 5 years ago, but what else can you do? But the point is, this rule of 375, this number is a pretty good guide. You know, it's a starting point. I'm not saying it's absolutely exact. Of course it's not. Depends what you do with your money. It depends on so many other characteristics of what's going on. But what I want you to think about is whether you are on the right track. Okay, whether you are doing the right things to make money. We're trying to talk about building wealth faster, okay, quicker. Well, you can see why. Probably a lot of people need to do that. I don't know what all your numbers were or what you had to earn a year, but just tell me, has that made you think? In the chat box, let me know if that's made you think. Let me know what's your thoughts on that. What are you thinking about what I've just said? Is that a bit of an eye-opener? Have you not thought about what your pension is? I can tell you probably 70 to 80% of this country have no idea what their pension requirements are or what actually they've got. Okay. So what can you do? Okay. What can you do to get to where you want to get to, or at least a long way towards it? So whatever it is, it's got to be appropriate. And that's why for many people, you have to build wealth faster. So I'm going to cover that off this evening. I'm also going to cover off, okay, of course, build wealth faster. Let me put up the agenda. I'm going to talk about property development because that is one way that you can build wealth significantly faster. If you want to do it, there are some challenges. What are they? Getting credibility, building a team, lack of money, getting the deals, delivering those deals on time, on budget, time to do it, and of course, knowledge. And I'll also cover off what the next step is. And if you hang around to the end, YPN we've done a bit of a special with YPN. So hang around to the end. If this is interesting you, we might have something for you. Okay. Now, what it would be useful as well, just as I'm going to tell you, I'll tell you a bit about me, who I am. So some people won't know. I'll give you a bit of my background. Could you tell me a bit about you? Because I'd like to, try and direct my conversation to the audience that we've got to see. We've got quite a few people on, but just tell me what you do. Are you in property? Are you a buy-to-let landlord? Just put BTL, or if you've got HMO, service departments, put that in there, HMO SA. If you're in a job, tell me what you do. Like maybe you're an accountant, maybe you're, I don't know, IT consultant, whatever you are. Pop a few in the chat box. So I want to see a cross-section of people that we've got on this evening. So if you don't know me, my name is Richard Glapson. I'm a chartered structural engineer. I've been in this industry now well over 42 years, okay? Someone said the other day there was a Facebook comment, someone said, 42 years, you must have started, you don't look older than early 50s, you must have started when you were at school. Well, I thought that was a great compliment because I am older than early 50s, but I did start at 16. I'm the only professionally qualified person out there that actually trains property development. I've been around in all sorts of projects involved, large projects, small projects, conversions, hotels, award-winning, invited by the government to peer review the Olympic Stadium, National Aquatics and the Velodrome, did things like Kempton Park, Epsom Racecourse, Wimbledon Retracting Roof. I've completed hundreds of projects. Thanks. All of the job descriptions are coming in. Keep them coming in because they're going to be useful for me to direct my conversation to you this evening. Yeah, hundreds of projects over the last 40 odd years, new build, housing, commercial, refurbishments, new, straightforward ones, just complicated ones, pretty much everything. I'm retired. I actually retired 15 years ago. You might think, what am I doing here this evening? Although Mrs. C is quite happy if I'm out of the house every now and then, so don't worry about that. But actually, this is my retirement gig, working and training property developers. You've got to do something. You don't want to hang around, sit at home. I do not like gardening. And so what I absolutely enjoy is I enjoy going around the country, spending time, talking to people. You might have seen me out there on various panels, national panels, international panels, talking about property development. If you are interested, we've got a whole YouTube channel. Pop onto YouTube, type in Property CEO. There's always stuff that's being released on there. So you might see me round and about the country, speaking at various events, speaking on various panels throughout the whole year. And I write regularly in lots of magazines and, of course, YPN. So I'm a regular contributor to YPN. In fact, just the other month, 2 of our students had some great articles in there. So if you're a regular reader of YPN, if you're not, you should be. But actually, you see a couple of articles from our students in there, how successful they have been and gone on and done this. So yeah, out there writing regularly on lots of press, lots of magazines, radio shows, and so on. My happy place is really here. It's actually working with students. It's talking to students. It's helping perhaps people like you. There's just a small group of one of our students from one of our events and actually going on a journey with them. And for me, the big thing is about community. I'm just going to share you, if I can, just a very, very quick little video here, because for me, the community is what gets you the success. And we have been pains and making a real effort to build a community that helps people. So it's not just us, it's not just my professional team that help and hold your hand, but it's the community that you're in that gives you that safe environment. Let me just play you this, and then just give me a chance to look up the chat box and read out what you've all done. So I'm going to have a quick read the chat box. Listen to this. It's probably about a minute. Have a listen.
Boy, did I learn something. I was like, wow, I'm doing this all wrong.
What is Property CEO? Well, we teach business owners, landlords, any property professionals how to go out and develop property.
The Developers Club made me have the confidence to back myself and push it forward.
We help you take the skills that you currently have and translate that into the property business skills that you need.
Great community. Everyone is here with a similar mindset and similar values.
I'm in the room with planners, consultants, specialist coaches.
I'm looking for much bigger projects now with the support from Property CEO.
The 12-month mentorship program is transformative.
This course really has changed my life.
Great stuff. Thank you for that. That just, I don't know why I'm saying thank you, but you were watching it. Let's just have a quick look what's in the chat box. Let's see who we have got on here this evening. All sorts of people. Okay, so I've got people been in property since 2022, buy-to-let, HMO, service apartments, more buy-to-lets, housewife trying to become a property investor. Well done. I'm sure we can get you there. A chemist, building surveyor. Interesting. Property manager, some rent-to-rents, a dentician, a dispenser. I'm selling my house to get some profit and I will start property development. Excellent. Well done, you. Buy-to-let, 4 of them. SaaS investor, angel investor. Someone says, good evening. Someone says, wow, aspire to inspire. Great comment. Doesn't tell me what you do, but it's interesting, isn't it? Okay. Someone says, I've got a 9-to-5 job and I'm at work marking papers. I'm aiming to do a commercial or residential. Someone says, I've joined this community. I came across your article on YPM magazine. I'm interested in property development. Love to learn more about the strategy. Well, you're in the right place. And someone says, hi, I'm 42 years old. Alongside working as a self-employed engineer, I've renovated houses, 4 of my own. This is a bit of a dialogue. 4 for friends and family. I love the graft. I've done most of the work solo. As much as I enjoy doing it, I need to learn to delegate and move forward. Absolutely. Okay, a whole cross-section of people in all different things. Right. What I want to do, okay, someone says, I've got more popping in. Someone says, PM source, a deal packager. I'm a commercial specialist. Excellent. As I say, a real cross-section of people this evening. So I want to talk to you then about building wealth faster, using property development. And I think, there's a lot of people there tonight, in that chat box telling me what you do. And a lot of it's completely unrelated. Some people saying I'm brand new to property. What I'm going to show you tonight, you can do. I know this is going to sound a bit far-fetched, but even if you're brand new to property, you can do this, okay? But first of all, I want you to think about this, okay? I want you to think about that rule of 375 that I talked about. There's a reason that I talked about it. I want you to get on the right vehicle, to get where you want to get to. I think, for me, that is so important. If you take nothing else away from what I'm talking about this evening, other than working out what vehicle is going to get you to your end destination, then I'm pleased. I'm pleased for you, okay? What I mean is, I've talked about that rule of 375. I threw that in there this evening. I thought that would make you think. There's some big numbers, 3.75 million. How are you going to go and earn 3.75 million? Even if it's half of that, how are you going to go and earn circa £2 million? This is what a lot of people do. Now, a lot of people, the average deposit in the UK is £70,000. That's what the average person, apparently, according to government research, saves up and is able to start their property development journey. Some of you may have that, you may not have that, you may have nowhere near that. Some of you might have exactly that number. And what a lot of people then do is they have about 20,000 to do the property up, and they've got about 50,000 into their first deal. So what would £50,000 deposit get you? Okay. Now you're all across the country, you're in various places, but when we're looking at 75% loan to value, it will buy you something worth £200,000. So in your area, maybe just think about it. Maybe write this down. What would you get for £200,000? 1-bed flat, 2-bed flat? Maybe not even that in certain parts of the country. Other parts, maybe a 3-bed house, 4-bed, who knows? Okay. But assuming you put your deposit, your £50,000 deposit into, some people are saying 1-bed studios. Yeah, got it. Okay. Into your first property. Let's say it was a 2-bed property, just for argument's sake. What you get back after paying the mortgage, because you've got a 75% loan to value, you're very highly leveraged, you've got a lot of debt. I'm not saying it's bad debt, you've got a lot of debt, because there's a point I want to make to you in a minute. You're going to get in your pocket, after you've invested your hard-earned, your hard-saved £50,000, after you paid your mortgage, about £300 to £400 a month. That good? Is it exciting? It's not, is it? Someone just said that's not a lot. It's not. But that's the reality. Yeah, maybe in 30 years, 25, 30 years, you paid the mortgage off, you're going to get more. But right now, with a 75% loan to value, that's all you're going to get. Okay? And that's not going to get you anywhere near. Well, have a think about it. Okay. Let's just do this. You wanted, some of you, £10,000 a month. Okay. If you want £10,000 a month, and let's be generous, let's make it nice and simple. Let's say you've got £500 in your pocket from each of your buy-to-lets. You need 20 buy-to-lets. And if we multiply that by £50,000, which is the deposit you need £1 million. Have you got £1 million ready to put into property to buy your buy-to-let portfolio? I'm guessing the answer is you haven't. That's why you're here, I'm guessing. Okay. Now you might say, "Oh, it's okay. What we do, we're gonna wait for it to go up in value and refinance." Well, you might be waiting a while because the market's not moving that fast. You're gonna wait a while to get that mortgage paid off. Maybe you're gonna refinance your own home. Okay, you've got 2 of these. Maybe that's 600 a month, 700, 800. But it's not life-changing, and it's not potentially going to get you anywhere near where you want to be. And I want you to think about that. So important that most people start in property, I say most people, large majority, by taking their £50,000, buying themselves a buy-to-let and getting a few £100 in their pocket. They get another one just about, and then they get stuck. And then they realise, hang on, this is getting me nowhere near what I need, either to get out of my job or retire. Making sense? Let me show you this. This is another problem, okay? This was an article in the Telegraph. I'll put this full screen for you because I want you to read this. This was in June, but it's a really good article, and I've just extracted some bits out of it. It said the number of UK properties available to let hit an all-time low. Look at that, 284 down from 380. Why is that? Smaller landlords, this article said, have been squeezed out, okay? So what's happened is a lot of the smaller landlords, well, I don't mean just in height, don't mean like me. I'm talking about landlords with 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 properties, okay? And what's happened is they struggled and they sold up while the larger ones have actually grown. Now that's interesting, isn't it? The larger ones have grown because one thing I definitely will not tell you, that buy-to-let is dead. There are plenty of people out there that go, oh, buy-to-let's dead, buy-to-let's dead, scaremongering. It's not dead, okay? I don't teach buy-to-let, but it's not dead. But the problem is you can't do it, it would appear these days, if you are a smaller landlord with just a few properties. Let me show you the rest of this. So why have these smaller landlords, why have they struggled? And why have the larger ones actually grown? Well, look, the hurdles to invest are now much higher, okay? And you've got to know what you're doing way more than ever before. So from that point of view, definitely, if you are going to get into buy-to-lets, make sure someone guides you and steers you, because right now, it's not something you want to just give a go, okay? Keep in touch with YPN. They'll have lots of resources that they can assist you with to guide you on that journey. It's not something I can help you with. But I'm just flagging up that it might not be the best starting point. Because look at this statement. It says now you need to have low levels of debt to make it work. If you're putting £50,000 into a £200,000 property and you've got 75% debt, that is not low levels of debt. You are highly leveraged. This is the problem. Wealthier landlords, this is landlords with more properties, can deal with higher levels of regulation. Now, you all know Renters' Rights Bill, regulation, more taxation for landlords is coming down the track. And the thing here, and this is absolutely key, look at this point. It's about spreading risk over a number of properties, not just with tenants, because you can't get, if you've got a problem tenant, you can't get them out. It's not just with tenants, but it's a risk of maybe a lack of tenants. It's voids. It's more taxation. Because if you don't have many properties, let's say you've got 3 properties and you've got a bad tenant, well, you know, that's a third of your income disappeared and you've still got to pay the mortgage. And it goes on to say, if you're a landlord without lots of debt and leverage, then this Renters' Rights Bill shouldn't scare you too much. The point of this article, and I think this is true, okay, Buy-to-let is not dead, but buy-to-let now needs to be done differently. And my view, my opinion, I'm not a buy-to-let specialist, is that you probably need 8 or 9 properties minimum to start with. If you go and put £50,000 into one property, and then you've got a few problems, or you've got more taxation, you can wipe out that 300 quid. One broken boiler, it's gone. And you're getting nowhere near the beach, your retirement, the rule of 375. So I really want you to think about what you need to do. Think about it. I was speaking in Bristol last night. I was at an event in Bristol, okay? Travelled up from Winchester to Bristol. And I said to them, I had to get there to speak. I think I was speaking at 8 o'clock last night from memory. And I said, when I left my office in Winchester, it's about 2 hours by car. I had to choose the right vehicle to get to Bristol in time. You know, if I just started walking, no way would I have got there. Cycling, probably not that fit. I wouldn't have done it in time. Could I got there by train? Maybe. Car? Definitely. I chose the right vehicle to get to my destination and the time I needed to be there. Is this analogy making sense? Because what I'm saying here, this rule of 375, you've got to choose. Only you know what your end journey is. Your rule of 375, how much you want to make a month, that lump sum, use it as a bit of a guide. As I said, Google it. Only you know what that number is. So choose the right vehicle. Is buy-to-let that right vehicle? Not if it eats up all your capital to start with. So what should you do? How can I help you? Okay, because you want to know a bit of an answer to this. Well, I'm going to talk about small-scale property development. Hopefully you've got a notepad. Write a couple of things down for me here because these are really key, okay? Small-scale property development, typically in and out in 18 to 24 months. Okay? If anyone wants to do this within 12 months, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to happen, okay? If you suddenly want to change your life in 12 months, you are not going to do this from today in 12 months if you've got no experience. You're just not. If you need money in 12 months, best get a lottery ticket and see if you can do something like that, okay? If you're prepared to wait 18 to 24 months, I want to manage your expectations, so maybe up to 2 years, you can do this, okay? Then how about in 2 years' time, September 2027, you could end up with £200,000 in your pocket. How would that be good? Would you be prepared to wait 2 years for that? Because that's what I want you to think about. Small scale, 18 to 24 months in and out. And another couple of key things I want you to think about and write down when we're talking about small scale property development. I want you to work in the need market. 1, 2, 3 bed properties. Okay. Don't work in the want market, which is 4 and 5 bed properties. And the reason for that, the want market is the market that slows down. As soon as there's uncertain, people are not a bit worried about the economy, budgets, and all those things. Well, or they don't buy the big houses. But the 1, the 2, the 3 bed properties, people get together, they have kids, you know, they want a garden, all those things, they're always moving. And this is a really important one, write this down. Small scale developments typically, probably for about 4 or 5 units, so 4 or 5 flats, up to about 20. No more than that, and not a lot less. Don't start doing 1 or 2 units because you can't compete with local builders. Above 20, you can have regional developments. Make sense? Hopefully it does. Now, have a look at this, okay? You can get started for as little as £12,000. And I'm going to show you right now, so you want to pay attention to this bit, how you can leverage that all the way up to a £200,000 profit. And literally converting something like this. Tell me if this looks complicated. Take an existing office like this. This is actually one of my students' projects, okay? They did this project. This office building was empty for about 10 years. I believe it was owned by an opticians. It was one of their, like an optician company. They use it as a bit of a head office. Look at that. Ceilings even falling down in there. There was a commercial unit on the ground floor, but they took the 2 upper floors, first and second floor, and they converted it into 4 2-bedroom flats. They didn't extend it out in any way. This is literally the existing building that was converted, new kitchens, new bathrooms. But the building itself is exactly the same. They didn't come out the back. This is the back view. They didn't go up. They did not extend the building. What do you think? Does that look scary? It doesn't, does it? Give me a yes if you feel, if I guided and supported you, you could do a little development like that. Just give me a yes in the chat box and see if you think that feels doable. Because when we talk about development, we talk about making six-figure sums. A lot of people think we're going to be talking about big schemes. Okay. So I want you to think, could you do this? I've got lots of yeses. I've got an absolutely 100 exclamation mark. You could, couldn't you? That doesn't look complicated. But look at what you can do with this. Pay attention to this money because I really want you to understand this. And again, get your pen and paper. You might want to write this down. You can borrow, okay, up to 70% of the purchase price of the building. Very similar to a buy-to-let where you get up to 75%, but up to 70%, that's a maximum, and 100% of the build costs. So you can borrow most of the money, up to 70% of the purchase and 100% of the build costs. Now, there's a lot more money to do a deal like this than there would be like a flip or something, okay? But the trouble with flips, there was an article, again, I think it was a Telegraph, and I think the article said Rachel Reeves rapes flips profit or something like that. I don't know what it was. It was some comment. The bottom line is that extra stamp duty surcharge, the extra 5%, if you're not aware of that, buy a second home is an extra stamp duty surcharge, 5%. If you buy a flip, you've got to pay the extra 5%. That now, with all other legislation and stuff and taxation, is wiping out profits and flips. You're not making a lot of money out of a flip these days. I'm not saying flips are dead, but they are hard work. You need a lot more money for this, maybe 10 times as much money, but you can borrow most of it. Let me show you the numbers on this. Let me take you through this. I'm going to do this slowly, and I want to make sure that everyone's with me. The purchase of a building like this is about £400,000. Now, as a comparison, in the same area, you could probably buy 3 to 4 bed mid-terrace. The thing with commercial buildings are often half the price, okay? Often half the price of an existing commercial building. So residential prices are up here. If you do a little flip, you take it to there. Commercial buildings right down here. And you ever heard that phrase, you make money when you buy? This is so important because commercial buildings, you get this big uplift, okay? So purchase is £400,000. I'm going to come back to that. The cost of the build. Now, this is all the materials you saw there. There's probably like new plasterwork, there's new electrics, there's new plumbing, there's new kitchens and bathrooms and doors and all sorts of things, okay? All of the labour to put that in, electricians, plasterers, plumbers, decorators. The professional fees, the professional team is going to help deliver this project for you. I'm talking about structural engineers, architects, planning consultants, cost consultants to control the cost for you, and a project manager to run the project for you. All of that, 325. Now, say you could probably do a flip for about 30,000 and you can't afford all the professional fees. I'm sure some of you have done flips and you've had to get to site, you've had to manage everyone. This is totally managed by someone else. So 400 purchase, 325 to do it up, add those together, 725. So we've got £725,000 and I've allowed about 10% interest on the whole of that, 75,000. I've rounded it up slightly. So 725 plus 75 is £800,000. 4 flats in this area, and again, I've rounded these numbers a little bit, would sell for about 250,000 each. So 4 flats at 250 is £1 million. £1 million less the 800, which is a 75 and 725, makes £200,000 profit. Is everyone with me so far? I don't want to leave anyone behind. Can everyone see where the £200,000 profit comes from? If you can, just give me a yes. If you can't, more importantly, give me a no, and I'll go back over it. So let's see if I've got yeses. And if there's any no's, I'll go back over it. So I don't want to leave anyone behind. Oh, Richie, you explained it so well. That won't get you anywhere. No creeps. Okay. All yeses. Great stuff. Okay. So we're talking £200,000 profit. Now, pay attention to this bit because this is the really important bit. Because someone on here this evening has said, I'm not going to read your name out, but you said, would you recommend using the equity from our property? I'm assuming you're meaning your own property. I'm assuming you're talking about, should we release equity from our own property? I'm going to say no, you do not need to. Okay, so don't rush out and do that. You do not need to. You can use your own property and leverage against it, but you don't need to rush out and take equity out. Let me show you how little money you need, because I think you'll be surprised. So hang on to your equity for the minute. So the deposit that you need, look, you can borrow up to 70% of the purchase price. The purchase is 400,000. 70% of 400,000 is 280,000, which means you'd have to put in 120,000 deposit, second line up from the bottom. So if you had £120,000 deposit, plus the bank, Specialist Development Funder, will lend you 280,000, you've got the whole £400,000. Here's the thing. Only 10% of the deposit, which is 120,000, needs to be ideally your own money. 10% of 120 is £12,000. So if you had £12,000, you could do this deal. Now, I know a lot of people saying straight away, well, what about the other 108? Okay. So where does the other 108 come from? Does anyone know in the chat box? Tell me where you think the other 108,000 comes from. Okay. Not from bridging, no. Okay. It's not from bridging. See if anyone can get it. Someone says, okay. Have a think about it. Absolutely. Stefan's got it. Other people's money. No, not joint venture. Other people's money. I'm talking about private investors. Okay. So if you had, let's say, two private investors that you knew, and you probably do, you just don't know that you know them. Let's say they got £54,000 in the bank each. What interest rates are they getting in the bank? 3%, 4%? We're giving them 10% in this deal. So if you knew someone that had £54,000 in the bank and you offered to double their interest rates, do you think they'd be interested? I think they probably would be. So if you had two private investors with £54,000 each, 108 plus your 12, you've got your deposit of £120,000. And then you can leverage your 12,000 up to a £200,000 profit. And let's just make this clear. A lot of people look at this and go, no, it's not 200,000 profit. You have to take the 120 off. It's only 80. No, screenshot this. If you haven't screenshot this because I want to go back over this later. The 120 is part of the 400 on the top line. It's the equity deposit, 30% of the 400 on the top. So actually, not only is your private investors getting their money back plus 10%, you're getting your £12,000 back plus 10%, and you're getting a clear £200,000 profit. And what will your private investors say when you give them their 54,000, another 5,000 interest back? They're probably going to say, let's go again. Do you think so? I think they probably would. Someone said, let's go again. What about stamp duty, legal fees? Yes, absolutely. Okay. I've rounded it all up. There is going to be stamp duty, but it's a commercial stamp duty. It's a lot cheaper. Yes, there's going to be legal fees. They would all be within those numbers. Okay. Either in the purchase price or within the 325, 400 or 325. And again, I've just rounded up. In fact, I've rounded these numbers up I've rounded them down in a slightly more conservative fashion, but these are based around an actual student's project. Okay. Give me a yes if you followed that. Give me a no if you didn't. Let's have a look in the chat box. I want to make sure that everyone is with me, understanding the £200,000 profit and the £12,000 deposit. Lots of yeses coming in. Okay, I've got a no. Which bit have you missed out on the no? I'm not going to read your name out. You know who you are. Just tell me in the chat box. Which bit on the no? Which bit have you missed? Is it the deposit? Is it 12,000? Is it the private investors' money? Is it the 200? Try and articulate in the box. It's the 200. Okay. Let me just do this again for you. If I can for everyone, let me just take you back over this because I don't want anyone to miss it. There's one person on here and I want to make sure that everyone is on this journey together. So the £200,000 bit, that is your profit. Okay, that's what's exciting. Why is it your profit? Look at the gross development value, the line 4 up from the bottom, the blue line there. That £1 million is what we would sell the 4 flats for. There's 4 2-bedroom flats once they're done up. Okay, so that would be your gross development value, the sale value that you sell the flats for, £1 million. The cost to get the flats done up, you've got to buy the building for 400. You've got to spend 325 getting it all done up. Yes, stamp duty and all those other fees, absolutely. And you've got to pay about 10% interest. So the 400 plus 725 plus 75 is 800,000. So your total cost to deliver this project would be £800,000. You sell it for £1 million. 1 million less 800 gives 200,000 profit. That's where the 200 comes from. Does that make sense to you now? Person who's asked that question, you know who you are, beginning with E. Does that make sense to you? Just give me a quick yes. I want to make sure you're with me. Again, screenshot that. Hopefully, if you haven't screenshot it, yes, I've got a yes. If you haven't screenshot it, just do it now very quickly and then go back over that later because that will make sense to you, hopefully. That is how you think about it, okay? We're talking £200,000 profit. This is how you build wealth faster. Getting involved in small-scale property development. This is what can get you going forward. And small-scale property development, you can see this scheme. It's not very big, is it? But what if you want to do this? What is your challenge? You have lots of challenges. What? Get taken seriously. How to build a professional team. How to get the money, because you can see you need lots of money. How to find the deals. How to know a good deal when you see one. How to deliver the development. How to have enough time, and how to get all the knowledge. What I want you to have now, has anyone read Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki? Hopefully you probably have, okay? I want you to come now with a Rich Dad mindset. Poor Dad mindset is, oh, no one's going to take me seriously. Oh, I can't build a team. Oh, I don't have enough money. Don't want that tonight. Get it out of your head. Have a Rich Dad mindset, which is, okay, Richie, tell me, how do I get taken seriously? I've never done this before. How do I get a professional team? I've never done it. I don't know any. How do I get all the money? I don't have enough. Okay. And so on. If you have a Rich Dad mentality, okay, then this is going to soak up a bit easier. And there's two things before I go into those challenges, because I'm going to knock those challenges off really quickly. After I've told you and got you to understand two absolute key aspects of how and why you can do this, whatever your background was. I know I had denticians, I think, on there, all sorts of people, you know, house mum, all sorts, okay? You can do this because when we think about property development, okay, property development is a team game. You need a team, okay? That's what you need. This is a typical property development team structure. Look at all the subcontractors, the plasterers, the plumbers, they're all underneath the contractor. Who runs the contractor? The project manager. What else does the project manager do? He runs all of the consultants. So you don't have to get involved in running the plasterers, plumbers, electricians, or the professional team. How, ultimately, does any entrepreneur run their business? Well, dear old Sir Richard Branson, he runs it as a chief executive officer, a CEO. Richard Branson doesn't know about every single business that he's involved in. He started a cruise line company. Does he know everything about that? The size of the boat, the size of the cabins, how much staff he needs in the kitchens? Does he? No, because he's a CEO. The key here is that you, if you want to be a property developer, can transition into this from any point in life, wherever you are, whatever you do, provided you are the property CEO. And I know you probably don't relate to Richard Branson. I get that. But maybe you'll relate to these four people. Charlotte, marketing consultant. I think I had a marketing consultant on here this evening. She was actually out developing. You might have come across her, the accidental female developer, she calls herself. She inherited a development business, a bit of a story to it, a bit of a sad story, from her late father and her brother. But she didn't really run it properly. She came to us and she trained. We trained her to be the CEO. Suddenly it made a big difference. Daryl is a teacher. Now, I know he's got a hard hat. He looks like a builder, but he's just visiting his first development. I think I've got a shot of that later. He's now a property CEO and he's still teaching. Harvey was into textiles. Sam was a police officer. They are all property CEOs. If a police officer, textiles, tutor, marketing consultant can do it, can you? Of course you can, because this is about you being a CEO, okay? Write that down in your notes. I need to be a property CEO, because that is fundamental for you controlling this business and controlling your success. Because if you think about it, if you came on tonight, okay, Nina introduced me and I said, I'll tell you what we're going to do in the first 10 minutes. Up on the stage here, I'm going to start laying some bricks. I'm going to teach you bricklaying in the first 10 minutes, okay? It'll be shockingly bad. Then we're going to do some electrics, a bit of plumbing. Then what we do, we have a quick break, and then I'm going to actually teach you how to be a planning consultant, maybe an architect, a structural engineer, project manager. You go, Richie, you're mad. I mean, you might say that anyway, I get it. But you don't need to learn all those things. You don't have time to learn all of those skills. It would be ridiculous to pretend that I had to teach you to be a bricklayer. You wouldn't believe it. So equally, you don't have to learn to be a project manager or an architect or a planning consultant. You need to learn to be a property CEO. You need to be the CEO that runs the business. How do you do that? You have a framework. If you have a framework to follow, like any successful business, think about Costa's, Subway, Starbucks, McDonald's, all those, McDonald's framework. Here is the framework. Let me put that full size because you might want to screenshot that. I'd encourage you to do that or write it down quite quickly. This is a framework that took me over 40 years to perfect. Blood, sweat, and tears, I can tell you. It looks pretty simple. Okay, it's represented by just 8 pillars. But within each pillar, there's a whole load of sub-pillars. There's a whole load of processes. And over the years, the great thing is, of being in this industry for so long, I've got to refine that framework many times over. It is a massive advantage of being 4 decades in the same business. And the framework is what makes property development so much more straightforward. If you think about it, if you were going to open a Costa coffee shop, if they give you the franchise manual, you follow it, don't you? If you had to come up with that yourself, it's going to be difficult. So here again, no hit or miss. No, let's just try this. Let's give it a go. No falling down holes because you didn't know they were actually there, or missing out on deals because you couldn't maximize the value. This framework is absolutely the key to your success. And I remember talking to someone about this, okay? I said to a good friend of mine who's a developer, I said to him, look, I've been a developer all this time. And I said, I want to start training other developers, people that want to be developers. He said, but you can't just train anyone. I said, of course I can. And his accountant was sat there and his accountant said, go on, then train me. I want to make a bit more money. Okay. And so I said, okay, I'll train you to be the CEO and I'll train you to follow this framework. My friend went, go on, then train him. And I did. And he built that. He made a 6-figure sum. I'm thinking 500,000 or 600,000 from memory, out of his first development as an accountant. I mean, if he can do it, could you? What skills do you need? These are some skills. Have you got them? Organizational skills, management skills, decision-making skills, and people skills. I tell you what, in the chat box, tell me what skills you've got. If you've got all 4, give me a 4. If you've got 3, give me a 3. If it's 2, 2, 1. Tell me what you've got. Let's have a look, quick as you can. Let's see what we got. I've got 4s coming in. How many 4s have we got? If there's any 3s, I want to see what they are. Oh, it's slowed up, went quite quick. Now it's slowed up. Come on. And what have you got? Have you got all 4 of those skills? Organization, management, decision, and people skills. You've got a 3. Okay, if you've got a 3, which one have you got missing? If you've got a 3, just type in quickly, which one's missing? And I wonder what that is. Because there's a couple of people with some 3s, okay? Because what can we actually work on? Let's say one of your missing skills, someone said people skills, no management skills, okay? Do you think we can work on that? Okay, if you haven't got people skills, tell me, the person that's typed in people skills, beginning with N, tell me what you do for a job at the moment. Just write what your job was, because rather than me scroll all the way back up. Someone else said they got no management skills. Well, maybe you can learn to manage. We can help teach you. We can teach you to manage things. If your people skills aren't that great, maybe they can be enhanced. And I would imagine most people probably play themselves down. Maybe your people skills are good enough. Okay, maybe they're good enough. You don't have to be up on stage doing the sort of thing that I do. But maybe they're good enough. And maybe your organization skills aren't so great. Well, learn that. Do you think you could? Do you think we can help strengthen those areas that are weak? We probably could. Because we go back to this team structure, okay? Every team structure needs a developer. The developer sits at the top of the tree. In fact, they need a CEO. In fact, they need a property CEO. That's where you would sit. This is why we can help and work on your management, organization, decision, and people skills, okay? to actually work at the top. Someone said organizational skills, according to my wife. Don't listen to your wife. My wife says you've got great people skills when you're at work. When you come home, why are you always cross with me? It's not true. It's not true. Okay. But look, this is where you would sit. You would be the property CEO. You're not on site controlling the subcontractors, the plasterers, the plumbers. You're not having, if you don't want to, control the architect, structural engineer. You are just controlling the project manager. You are the property CEO. That's the role you get. Does that make sense? The two key things I want you to get today, okay? If you're thinking of moving forward in this, you've got to absolutely get in your head that the key to being a successful property developer is not learning everything. It's learning to be the CEO. I will help train and guide you and teach you to run a property development company. It's about being a CEO. I know it sounds a grand title, but look, police officers can do it, tutors can do it, you can do it. And it's about following the framework. So if you've been given a framework and I'll help guide and steer you, do you think if I help guide and steer you through that framework and you operate as a CEO, you could be successful? What do you think? Give me a yes if you feel you can, because then I'm going to knock off these challenges if it's a yes. If it's a no, tell me. If you don't think you can, give me a yes in the chat box. It's nice to keep asking you for in the chat box because I know you're there and it keeps me engaged. When I see the chat box moving, it's great. Someone says, I need a bit of confidence. Of course you do. Of course you do. I don't expect me to give you confidence at day one. But do you think some of these people lack some confidence? I can tell you they did. But that's about working on this. Lots of yeses coming in. So now we understand that. Let's knock off pretty quickly your challenges, how to get taken seriously, how to build a team, get the money, find the deals, know a good deal, deliver the deal, have enough time, and of course, get the knowledge. These will make sense. Okay? And I do them quite quick because they're going to make a lot of sense. How to get taken seriously? Well, the key to getting taken seriously, and it comes back to this, I need confidence, is going back to this thing here. Okay? You're the CEO. And what we do is we have a very, very specific way that we will build a website and branding to get you credibility. That was all around pillar one. And we will make sure that that portrays you in the marketplace as a credible property CEO. And imagine then alongside you having maybe someone like me, a non-executive advisor, there guiding and supporting you. Someone that's been in this industry a long, long time. Do you think then, if you had your sort of, someone, and I'll teach you how to find that person. Wouldn't be me personally, but I would teach you how to find it. But imagine having someone sat alongside you and building a credible website and branding, and the branding on that website will actually demonstrate that the architect, structural engineer, planning consultant, all those people are ready to work for you. Imagine having all of them on your website. You're probably thinking, why would I do that? How can I do that? What would they want to? We'll show you how to do that, how to get a whole professional team on your website. So actually, how do you get taken seriously? It's just about pillar number one. And there's a little project here. Look at that. That is a projected profit of over £1 million. Just 16 apartments within that 4 to 20 range. That's a student of ours, first time development. And what's the next one? What about how to build a professional team? Okay. How do I go out and build a professional team? Because probably a lot of you are thinking, I don't know any professionals. You maybe don't. Well, I can tell you there's a simple way. At Property CEO, we've got a whole professional team. If you want to use them, you can. But you can go out and build your own team, because what I want you to think about is, what are all these consultants looking for? They don't have anything unless there's a developer, a CEO, a property CEO. You. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for someone like you. They don't mind if you're new. As long as you're educated and you can actually talk about it in the right way, you know what you're doing. Of course, that's the whole point of the framework, the 8 pillars. When you follow that process, you can demonstrate that you are the property CEO. And all these consultants are looking for you. It's like, who's buying and who's selling? These consultants, they're buying. So you're buying, they're selling, getting around the right way. They are wanting to sell to you. You don't have to go to them and try and sell yourself. It's the other way around. This is exactly what these guys did. They went out there, okay? They built a professional team. She's a police officer. She'd never done it before. Didn't know any professionals, but she went and built them. Another little project here. This was a couple of students of ours, okay? Went out and did this. This was 11 flats out of an office conversion. They built a professional team, never done it before. One was a restaurateur. One was an interior designer, so she knew a little bit, but the restaurateur knew nothing. They can do it. Can you do it? And what about getting the money? Well, raising finance, we can talk about in almost two sectors. We can talk about commercial finance, and then I'll talk about private. Let me just pick up on the commercial. And I'm going to touch again all these quite quickly this evening because I think these all make sense. Commercial finance, the deal is critical, okay? Very different to any other type of finance when you're looking for maybe buy-to-lets. In fact, I'll show you that in a minute. The deal's critical. The deal has to stack up first, and then it's your team and you. In fact, write down in your notebooks tonight, write deal 1, 2, okay, your team, and 3, you. So 1 deal, let's do it that way around. Number 1, deal. Number 2, team. Number 3, you. I want you to remember that. Write that down. The deal's critical. Let me show you. If you were raising money for a buy-to-let, this is what you'd have to do. There's you, okay? You're out there and you want to raise some money. Well, what happens? If you want to raise that 75%, 150,000 to buy a 200,000 pound buy-to-let because you're super excited about your 300 pound a month, which you're probably not, but there we go. Okay. What do they want to know? They being the commercial lenders, they want to know everything about you. They want to know what job you're in. Give me 6 months worth of pay slips. Okay. Give me your bank statements. Have you got any more? What's your mortgage statements? Have you got any car loans, any credit cards? How much you spent on the shopping? They want to know everything about you. And only then will they say, what is it you wanted to buy? And you go, well, what it is, it's a sort of mid-terrace 3-bed buy-to-let. Want to put a nice family in. And if you can afford it, because they want to make sure that actually, if there's no tenants, you can still afford to pay the mortgage. So it's about you. But property development is different. So what's first? Anyone remember what's first? It's the deal. So they, being the lenders, the commercial lenders, are not going to say, tell me about you. They're going to say, tell me about your deal. Well, what we're doing, we're going to convert an old office building here. We're going to turn it into 8 flats. We're going to make about £200,000 profit. We're doing it under permitted development rights, so we've got certainty. Hold that thought. I'll tell you about those very quickly in a minute. And she'll make about £200,000 profit. Wow, they love the deal. What's the next thing they want to know, these funders? Not about you. They want to know about your team. Tell me about your team. Oh, I've got a great architect. She's got 15 years experience. My structural engineer, he's worked with her as well. He's got 25 years experience. Project manager, she's got about 25 years experience as well. I've got a great contractor, all knowledgeable, all know each other, etc., etc. So they love the deal. They love the team because it's the team, if you remember, that's going to deliver. And finally, tell me about yourself. They're not interested whether you got a job. They're not interested how much you earn. They're interested in something called your net asset position, but they're not really interested about you. They're more interested in the deal and the team. And then when they are interested, you don't even have to find the money yourself because a funding broker will source it for you. There are specialist funding brokers that bring the money to the table. They talk to you, they find out what your position is, what your deal is, who your team is, advise and guide you, and we can introduce you to those sort of people, and then they find the money for you. So the commercial money is out there in abundance. And the private money, well, we've just talked about it. There is so much money out there. I mean, do you believe that there is money out there, that people have money in the bank? Yeah. So the only problem is it's in someone else's bank and you want it in yours. Okay. So all you need to know is how to get it to yours. Well, when the banks are offering 4 to 5%, and in the model we just showed you, we're doubling that. I mean, do you not think people are interested to talk to you? If you're only getting 4 to 5% in the bank and you've got 54,000 in the model we talked about in the bank, and then someone comes along and says, hey, what about if I offer you 10% double? Would you be interested to talk? You probably would. And the key thing here, you have the opportunity, you as the developer, and you have to have a complete mindset shift to see this. Do not become subservient to the money. That's what a lot of people do. They become subservient to the money. I get it. If you haven't got the money, you think the money's got the power. I'm telling you tonight, the money hasn't got the power. The person that's got the deal, the developer, the property CEO, you have the opportunity. Shift your mind. So important. There are rules, FCA rules all around this. You've got to know how to do it. They've all gone and done it. Steve here, he was the builder. He went and done it. £250,000 out of a nice little scheme. The money's out there. How do you find the deals? I subtly mentioned permitted development rights. Has anyone been in the planning system? I don't know if you have, but it's really difficult. Planning system in this country is broken. So what I'm going to suggest right now is the opportunity is out there. In fact, it's in all of our towns and cities. We have something called permitted development rights, okay, in England. So I know someone in Scotland tonight. Well, some of my Scottish students come to England and do the developments, take the money and take it back because you don't have to be on site. You can do it at arm's length. I've got students overseas, international students that fly into the UK and do it. So if you live in Scotland, do you think you can do it in the south? Of course you could. Have a look at this list. In fact, I'll put that list full size for you so you can see it. Photoshop this list, not Photoshop it, screenshot it. Photoshop it if you want, make it a nice color, but screenshot it, okay? Someone says the planning is mad. Absolutely. Diabolical, someone else says. That list there, look at it. Shops, banks, cafes, restaurants, offices, light industrial, all of those buildings. And have you seen any empty buildings like that where you live? I suspect you probably have. All of those buildings, okay, can actually be converted to residential without the need for full planning permission. That is really powerful. Hopefully you've all got that. Nigel and Wendy, little project here. Bank conversion. You can see it's a bank, still got the runners on it when they bought it. £250,000 profit. Could these deals get you to that number that you want? And what about converting a light industrial building? What about something like that? Look how run down that is. That's on the list, light industrial buildings. Buildings like this can offer terrific value. Someone says, what about the FCA rules, sophisticated and non-sophisticated? You just got to know what they are, okay? Sophisticated investors can invest and take a profit share. Non-sophisticated, not that as easy to say, wasn't it? Non-sophisticated investors can only take a return on their money, not a profit share. So you just got to know those rules, okay? That's what they are. You might see people advertise out on Facebook saying, hey, great returns. Most of that is against the rules. I would say effectively it's illegal. But light industrial is a real sweet spot. Now, I said you make your money when you buy. Imagine buying something like that. Imagine how much money you could make on a deal like that. And how do you know a good deal when you see one? This is going to be so easy, okay? How do I know a good deal? Look at that list, okay? If it's an empty shop or a bank, I mean, you've seen them, haven't you? Cafe, restaurant, if it's one of them, it's probably a good deal. And what you're looking for is what? You're looking for a motivated seller. One of the problems trying to buy a property like a flat or a house below market value is, some are motivated, but it's still residential prices. But if you have a think about it, I went down a local little town just a month or so back with my wife, and there were 7 shops in a row, 7, all completely empty with the uppers. And I said, do you think anytime soon someone's going to try and rent one of them? So what if you turned up knowing you could convert it to residential? What if you turned up and you're the only person to turn up and make them an offer? And perhaps you find the one that's got the commercial mortgage on it, that's feeling the pain, that's paying the rates. Do you think they might be interested to talk to you and you might get a good deal? So actually, the deals are out there. You've got to know how to analyze deals, of course. You've got to know how to stack them up. But once you start looking at that list, the banks, the light industrial, the shops, the restaurants, and you know how to stack it up, that's where good deals are. Because you're the property CEO. And in fact, I talked about Sam earlier. I talked about Sam as a police officer. She's gone out and done this, okay? Someone said, what about police stations? No. Did you see police stations on the list? I don't think you did. In which case, look at the list. Does it say police stations? No. Doesn't say pubs, doesn't say churches. If it's not on the list, you can't do it. Let me go back to Sam, okay? Sam's project. There it is. It's the one I showed you earlier. But in fact, she made 300,000 profit. Told you I rounded the numbers down. She, as a police officer for her first proper development, made £300,000 profit. She can do it by being the CEO, following the 8-pillar framework. Could you? How do you deliver the development? I think you're getting the gist of this now. You're going to know what's going to come up, okay? How do you deliver the development? Well, actually, you don't. You have a delivery team. The project manager is going to deliver it with the contractor. You don't need to be on site. So if you do live in Scotland and you want to do a scheme, say, I don't know, maybe in Liverpool or Birmingham or Manchester or Oxford, or if you live overseas, I've got a student who lives in Malta, flies into Cambridgeshire, does his deals, disappears back out. Could you do that? Of course you could, because you're not on site. Contractor's on site managing it. The project manager's managing the contractor. You are just managing the project manager because you are the CEO. Look at this little scheme here. 100,000 profit. How do you have enough time to do this? You know this, don't you? But you're managing the project manager. So even if you're out there and you've got a full-time job, and some of you will have, you are managing the project manager. So you can do this part-time. And I'll tell you how part-time you can do this. What about this scheme here? This scheme, who would like £100,000 profit, just over, for less than a day a week? Doing a little development of 4 flats. And I can tell you as well, someone asked earlier about money. Someone says, yes, please, okay. No developers' money in. This was done entirely with commercial funding and private investors. So this didn't even need 12,000 in. Is it possible to do it without any of your own money? Yes, it is. Is it slightly more challenging? Yeah, of course it's going to be. But if you operate as a CEO, you can do it. How do you get all the knowledge? You know the answer, don't you? You follow the 8 pillars, you follow the framework. That's how you do it. That's what Daryl did. Remember Daryl, the tutor in the yellow hard hat? £177,000 profit out of his first deal. I was so privileged. He invited me up and I met all his family, his granddad and his wife and kids. And he showed me his first development that he'd done after following the program. Yeah, we guided and steered him and supported him with our team. Of course we did. I don't know what he makes as a tutor, but I don't think he makes £177,000. And he's still tutoring. And he says, I love tutoring. There he is there. Darryl in the yellow hard hat. He said, I love tutoring. I still want to do tutoring. But I like doing development as well. So if you've got stuff that you want to do, still do it. That's how you build wealth faster. Property development. It's got a huge advantage. Just give me a yes if everyone's followed me. Does this make sense? Because I've ticked all those off, those challenges quite quickly this evening, because those challenges, when you know and you understand, and I think you will do now about being a CEO, when you understand those, you can see that you could do this, be the CEO, follow the framework. Lots of yeses. I've got some yeps and I've got yes with lots of S's on the end. Is this a bit of an eye-opener for you this evening? Hopefully it is. Maybe it's making you think. This is small-scale property development. So what's the next step? Okay? Because if you're there this evening, you think, oh, I like the idea of this. What do I do now? What's the next step? Well, you have to do something different if you want change. And even if a few people were saying earlier, you know, I've retired, it's too late. It's never too late, okay? My eldest student is 82. Youngest is 82, okay? And that student 82, I can think of one of my students, she's 77, I believe. Does not look at, I tell you what, when I'm 77, if I look as good as that, that'd be great. 77. She just wants to do one project. She said, if I can do one project and make £200,000 to £300,000, she's going to put it straight into a fund for her grandchildren. She said, that's all I want to do. She said, I've got all my marbles. And she said, that would be something that my grandchildren could really get started with. It's never too late. But you have to do something different. I've talked about this rule of 375 this evening. Seriously think about that. 70 to 80% of people in this country do no idea what their pension pot is. And when they look at it, it's scary, particularly when they think about what they need. And I've got you thinking about that this evening. Maybe you need a lot more than what you ever imagined. So please have a think about that. Maybe this is a bit of a turning point this evening. And even if it's not property development, that's fine. Just think about it. But if it is property, even in some way, think about that vehicle. Buy-to-let is not dead. Definitely not. But if you're going to put your hard-earned £50,000 and you're starting in property, you're not getting it back out. it's stuck in there. How do you get your next? And £300 to £400 a month is not going to change your mind. And think about this. You could take £50,000. You could put it into a buy-to-let. And we've already talked about that tonight. And £300 to £400 if you were lucky, £500 a month. But what else could you do? How could you, we're talking about building wealth faster. How can you 10x the growth of your portfolio? Well, we've worked it out, haven't we? If you have £50,000, you only need £12,000 to do a project. 12,000, 4 12s, 48. So with 50,000, we can do 4 projects like the one on the screen here. And that's 200,000 each. Now, I don't know what your maths is like, but my maths says if I put £50,000 into a buy-to-let and I can get, say, £300 to £400 a month in my pocket, or I can put £50,000 into development, do 4 of them and make 800,000. And yes, you know this is a lot harder work, okay? A lot harder. But are you prepared to put that hard work in for 800,000, even if you only made half of that? Let's be conservative. 400,000. Would you do it? And what could you do? You could buy 16 buy-to-lets with a 50,000 deposit. And even if we didn't want to leverage it, because I said leverage is too, if you've got too much debt, it's a problem right now. What I'd probably say is buy 8, 100,000 each. You've only got 50% leverage, not 75. What do you think? What can you do? If I've whetted your appetite, okay, you're lucky you're here with YPN. We put something together. We run a 3-day event. You can pop onto our website. It's a virtual event. It's run from my studio here, the Property CEO Studios. So in the comfort of your own home, you don't have to travel anywhere, but it's all run from the studios. It's not just a normal Zoom where you sort of see us from waist up. Okay, it's here, it's interactive with me and my team. There's a whole prospectus on our website on this event. It's a 3-day live event. I'll just tell you quickly what's on the event. You can go and have a look at the prospectus later. Pop onto our website, propertyceo.co.uk, have a look at it. But I've got a bit of an opportunity, and I think you're going to think this is a bit of a no-brainer. If you like what I've talked about this evening, if you don't, I get it. That's absolutely fine. On this 3-day event, just a couple of highlights. We're going to go through in detail how you find deals, and particularly our deal finder system. We're going to show you how you can go out and find deals. We're going to show you how to build, because this is a big one for people, a team of professionals. Even though I've told you that they're looking for you, okay, they're selling, we'll show you how to do that, okay? We'll also introduce you and show you who our professional team is, if you want to use them. And importantly, I'm going to go through with my team and run through every single one of those pillars. The 8-pillar framework, the credibility, the brand, the business structure, the setup, the professional team, the finance, how you get that money, how you find the deals, and so on. Deliver it. I'm going to go through with my team every single one of those pillars. And we're going to do a live project appraisal. Remember I said it's important to know how to stack up a deal? Well, we're going to run a session where we're going to show you live with our deal analyzer how you stack up a deal. And I briefly touched on permitted development rights. Those rights are superbly powerful. I don't have a lot of time to go into it this evening, but I will on this 3-day event. I'll tell you how powerful they are. They are a right. If you put your application in to convert, let's say, a bank, and you tick all the boxes, in 56 days, if the planning officer has not come back to you, you can carry on. And the permitted development right is the power that brings the money to the table. 70% purchase, 100% development. And I'm going to teach you a few tips and tricks. Okay, there's a few loopholes in this stuff. On the 3-day event, I'm going to teach you that. And then what I'm going to do on the Saturday, I always run the whole Saturday session myself. I'm going to have a live deal workshop. I want to bring this to life. I think I'm the only person in the industry that runs live deal workshops. So we would get you to find deals, send them in, and we'll analyze them live. It could be anything. The other month, we had old rundown shops like this, industrial buildings built in the middle of back gardens, all of these buildings, ugly buildings. Now, how would you even begin to convert that industrial building? What would you do? We'll show you that. We'll show you whether these projects are possible or not possible and what you could do with them. These are just a selection we had the other month. So a superbly powerful 3 days. Normal investment for this, 1497 plus VAT. 2 things. You're lucky that we've sold out most of these events. Okay, we run one every month. And you're equally lucky that YPN are here because they are going to do a bit of a deal with you, with us to sponsor it, to get you in there as a bit of a no-brainer price. Okay. So 3-day online live event. Give you 3 extra things this evening just for being here. I'm going to make sure, because there's a lot of content, I'm going to tell you heaps and heaps of content. Don't always give our slides away here at Property CEO, but I'm going to make sure that at the end of 3 days, for anyone that joins from YPN this evening that wants to come on this 3-day event, you can pick your date. We've got a couple of dates to choose from. I'm going to make sure after the event, you're going to get a copy of every single slide, over 600 slides. Imagine how much content that's going to be. Now, just make sure I manage your expectations. I cannot teach you everything about development in 3 days. You know that, okay? You know that. This will get you down the road. It fast tracks you forward. If you then want to talk to us about working with us in the future, you can do that. It's not a big sales fest. You can't buy anything on this 3 days. We have a full mentorship program. Pop on our website. It's all on there. You can see everything about it. But in the 3 days, the knowledge you're going to get is going to be massive to get you started. I'm going to give you 2 other things which I think are quite exciting. I've recorded a module called My Property Best Property Strategy for 2025. I'll put that together. I'm going to send that to you before the event so you can have a read. And I think this is pretty exciting. This is called My Blueprint. This is actually a recording. Remember I talked about business tonight, about running a business. This is a presentation that I did to some of my elite students earlier in the year, and we recorded it, just not to all my students, just to a small group, and I've packaged it up, put it together, and I'm going to send that to you. So you can have a look at that. Best property strategy, blueprint, and of course, those 600 slides, you're going to get all those as 3 little extra bonuses. And because you're here with YPN, because we've sold out, you're only going to pay 300 quid. Now, I don't know what you think of that, but that looks a bit of a no-brainer to me. There is a code. I think the code's gone in the chat box. Thank you for that, YPN. And there is a QR code if you want to scan that. Now, I know a few people might be logging on. If you want to grab a ticket, grab one fairly quickly. I'll put that up full screen so you can do that. Grab one fairly quickly because I know they're limited, okay? And I'm pretty certain you've got my September event next week. It's running Thursday, Friday, Saturday next week. If you're keen, if you're enthusiastic, you really want to think about getting going, okay? A lot of people say to me, is this the right time? Is it the right time in the industry? Well, it's a pretty good time. There's a lot of uncertainty. The bottom line, if you sit on your hands, nothing's going to happen. No one is going to help you. You've got to help yourself. So maybe dip your toe in the water and see what you think. Now, whilst people are logging on, maybe just grabbing a ticket, would anyone like to just see if I play a quick video? Give me a hands up if you'd like to see a quick video of a student's project they did, which is quite a nice project, quite a big project. Who'd like to see that? Just give me a quick hands up. Enough people, but I think we've got enough time. Yeah, great stuff. Okay. I'm just going to, I'll play this with you. I just thought my screen around a little bit. I have to just change a few settings. Let me play this for you. See what you think of this. Whilst you're just grabbing one of those tickets. I think you'll be inspired by this guy. This is Auburn. Have a listen to him.
Hi, I'm Auburn Tennant from Stone Harbour Developments. Welcome to our development in Aldershot, where we're converting a 3-storey 1970s office building into 15 beautiful new flats. The Property CEO course has given me the tools to know what questions to ask, to spot good opportunities, avoid pitfalls, and it allows you to find and select and delegate to a really good professional team. So we're in Interpower House, an office building built in the 1970s, and we're converting it into 15 one-bedroom flats. The building cost 1.1 million. The build cost is 1.05 million. The GDV we're expecting is in the region of 2.8 million. So that gives us £650,000 profit before financing costs. Well, I signed up to the Property CEO Fast Track Programme back in 2023. I picked up a huge amount of information, which was actually real valuable information. I thought, if I can get more of this kind of information, which is answering the questions that I actually need answered, then doing the main course is a no-brainer at all. The academy days have been really valuable. You get to sort of share experiences, see other people's journeys and see what challenges they're facing. You also get the expertise from Richie and the team. You get to ask questions. There's a lot of valuable information that you can pick up. The biggest single takeaway is the ability to quickly evaluate a site and not waste time on something that turns out to basically not be worth pursuing. The other thing that it's given me is the knowledge. So when I am talking to the professional team, I know what they're supposed to be doing. The property CEO approach, which is do permitted development if you can and get in and out quickly, really facilitates the ability to grow a company fast. For me, the really exciting thing is the opportunity to grow a business, to do 3 or 4 of these size sites per year ultimately, and then try and sell that business. For me, that's the ultimate goal.
Think about that. He's talking about 3 to 4 sites a year. He's talking about Auburn making about 400,000 out of that. You could make £1 million a year out of this. I don't want to get you excited and think that that's the sort of numbers you're going to make, but you can. Most of you, if you can make 200 a year part-time, would this be worth doing? And as I said to you, okay, the big thing about all of this is these challenges and having that mindset. If you've got that Robert Kiyosaki mindset, not I can't do that, but how, and you follow the framework, follow the process, you can do this. Would you like to be a property CEO? The choice is yours. The opportunity's out there. Be a property CEO. Follow the framework. It's the 8 pillars and the CEO process that gets you the success. If you want to grab one of those tickets, come and join me on that 3-day event. I'd love to help you get your journey started. Nina, back to you.
Richie, as always, amazing. So I'm just flicking back through the chat. There was a few questions I think we did miss. Sorry, I'm just Colin was asking here about whether the police stations fall into your ideal list.
Police stations, no, police stations don't. Police stations are what we call sui generis. Okay, that is for Latin of its own type. So you can't do police stations. Police stations, fire stations, ambulance stations, no, can't do any of those. I'm afraid, Colin.
Sorry, I'm just trying to flick through. I should have made what about the FCA rule on sophisticated and non-sophisticated investor, please?
I think I did comment on that, but let's just pick that up again, okay? Because I had that on one of the slides. And the point I was just wanting to make is there are rules around borrowing money off of investors. So we talked this evening about borrowing other people's money, borrowing private money, and many people fall foul of those rules. Now, largely the rules and like anti-money laundering checks and know your client, there's processes you have to go through before you're going to borrow the money. Those checks are going to be done by your property accountant or maybe your property lawyer. But the simple thing that you need to understand is when you're out there and you're trying to offer an opportunity to a private investor, some private investors might say, look, I'd love to invest, but I want a share of the profits. So I'll lend you the 100,000 that you want, but I'm going to want, 30% of the profit. Unless they're what's classed a sophisticated investor, and there's a whole series of checks and measures. How much do they earn? Have they ever invested before? Run their own business? All those things. Unless they're a sophisticated investor, you're not allowed to give them a profit share. It's illegal. And that sometimes is quite useful if you've got an investor saying, well, that's what I want. And you say, well, I can't give it to you because you're not officially sophisticated. I'm ever so sorry, I can't. I can give you a 10% return because that is okay for a non-sophisticated investor. So it's just understanding those processes when you're trying to get private money on board. That's what that's to do with. Hopefully that makes sense.
Okay, there's somebody in here saying about how they're really into being a new developer, and they're basically saying, what are the most common challenges that new developers face with these small projects and how can they overcome them?
Okay, I think probably the common challenge is, if I'm really honest, is people don't listen, okay? And I know you're all entrepreneurs, so you're not supposed to listen. It's against the rules. I'm one as well. But the big thing, I think the trap a lot of people fall into, because I tell you not to do this, is they want to get involved on the site, okay? I want to be hands-on. I want to learn the process. So some people try and project manage their own projects. That's not a good idea, okay? If you're really lucky, you'll pull it off. 9 times out of 10, you'll fall flat on your face. But I get why people do it. They go, yeah, I want to learn the skill set. But I often said to people, I had someone once, he was absolutely adamant. He said, I really want to learn to be the project manager. So then I know what the project manager is doing so I can oversee them. I said, okay, I get you. He said, yeah, does that make sense? I said, yeah, okay. What about bricklaying? He said, what about bricklaying? I said, well, surely you want to learn bricklaying so you can oversee the bricklayers and make sure they're doing. He said, well, it's ridiculous. I said, well, then it's just about as ridiculous to try and learn to be a project manager. Because most project managers, time served or qualified RICS qualified Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, probably trained for 7 or 8 years. You haven't got 7 or 8 years, so you'll probably mess it up. So the big mistakes people make is getting sucked too much into the deal. Okay. And I would say as well, not knowing what deals to look for, not knowing how to analyze. There's lots of other bits, but getting sucked in is probably the biggest mistake.
Fantastic. I've just seen that, Saf, we have seen your payment come through. Amazing. You are on. Fantastic. He's just asking Richie, is it an all-day event for the whole 3 days?
Okay. The timings for the 3 days. The Thursday, 9:30 to 5 o'clock. Friday, 9:30 to 5 o'clock. Saturday, 8:30 start, but we get you away at 2 o'clock. So Thursday and Friday, 9:30 in the morning to 5 o'clock at night. And we do finish on time. We don't overrun. It's finished sharp. And then Saturday, 8:30, and we will finish sharp at 2 o'clock to get you away. That's the timings.
Amazing. And I'm so excited you're in. Guys, if you are in, put A, I'm in the chat, and just so I can check that the transaction's gone through would be fantastic. I'm just looking for the other questions. How do you balance taking profits versus reinvesting back into the business?
Okay. Well, you don't need to reinvest back into the business, but you might want to, let's say, reinvest by holding some of the properties. That's the thing that people will often do, because people, in terms of, you look at what we had, 12,000 investment. That's what we did on that model. That's the minimum. I always suggest if you've got about 20,000, that's a really good starting point. Most people have about 50, as I say. So if you're investing that £12,000, you saw in the model that all your money comes back out. The rest is clear profit. You don't have to, because this is a really low overhead business model. And you don't have to reinvest and buy stock or equipment or anything like that. So your money, your profit is ready to go into whatever you want it to. If you want to put it into a bigger project, second time round, yeah, you've got more deposit. What a lot of people would do that want to build a portfolio is often say, right, like Sam's project there, okay, four flats she had. You might want to sell 2 and keep 2. So you actually keep a bit of cash. So in her case, she had about 150,000 you might keep, leave the other bit in and hold 2 properties. So it wouldn't be reinvesting in the business, but it might be holding some property to build your portfolio alongside lumps of cash. Of course, if you lived overseas or if you lived outside of England and you were doing permitted development schemes, which I'd encourage you to do because it's the part for least resistance, it's the least risk, and you're doing those in the UK, you might want to sell everything and then take your money back and invest in a portfolio back in Scotland or Wales or wherever you might be.
Fab. Mike's just put on here, where is it being held? But this is an online. I'll leave that for you to answer, Richie.
Yeah, is that Mike? So Mike, it's at your house, okay? So everyone's coming to Mike's house. Mike, it's a virtual event. It's the same as here. It's being held in the Property CEO studios here, okay? So you'll have the full glory of me, my business partner Ian Charles, one of my directors, Dan Nelson here. The 3 of us will be presenting from these studios over the 3 days. We're going to try. I know a lot of people say they struggle with webinars, but with a full-size studio, a lot of interaction. There'll be some videos, we're having some chats. We will keep you engaged. I guarantee that for 3 days. So Mike is at your house from this studio. Mike says, who's bringing the drinks? Well, Mike, I guess you are. Where does Mike live? So what Mike you could do, Mike could come round and bring us a drink, maybe at lunchtime, and then go back and watch the rest.
Fantastic. We're all going to be at Mike's house. Amazing. Someone's just put a question. If this is only available in September, October, I can't take 2 days off in such short notice. We will be away in October. Will there be any workshops in November? Oh, I always get you into trouble, Richie, but...
So, Nina, you always do this, and I reckon Nina sets this up. Okay. Look, yes, there is an event in November, okay? I'll tell you what the dates are. But ordinarily, the price in November is going to be more money, because it will be at full price because we haven't sold out those events. But it's the 20th, 21st, 22nd of November. 20th, 21st, 22nd November. I see that's Claire that's asked. I can see that in the chat box. Claire, okay, if you want to come along, because we give you your money back if you don't like it or whatever, book one of the dates on that special price. Let's break the system. My admin team hate it. This is why Nina's laughing. I know why she's laughing, okay? So basically, don't book the September one. Please don't do that because there's only a few tickets for that, and that might take away from someone else. I know there's a few more in October. Book an October ticket, okay, or just book a ticket. When you're asked for your date, say I can't do September, October, but Richie said that I could do November, and it's the 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Can I move to that? And what I'll do, Claire, for you, because it's YPN, we'll honour that. I often do it and I get told off, but it's my business.
Of course it is. I always get you into trouble. We always do this. But yeah, Claire, like I said, just book up now and I will make sure that we make a note of this and I will make sure that you get the November date. Not a problem at all. I'm just moving up for a question, actually. We just had a question from Nicholas. I'm assuming you combine title splitting with this strategy.
Yeah, Nicholas, you would be. You'll be looking, unless you want to hold it all. So let's say, let's take the block again that I was showing you that Sam had the 4 flats. Unless you want to hold all 4 flats and you know you're going to do that long term and just rent them, you could leave it under one title. If you're looking to sell them off or you want that exit to sell off, then you would title split them out and have 4 individual titles or leaseholds under an overall freehold. So yes, title split would be part of the process.
So I'm just working my way back through these questions. There's an interesting one here, actually. If you were to start again, what would you do differently?
Oh, what would I do differently? I think, I often get asked this, and I think it's quite simple. I go out and I speak a lot, as you well know, and I'm at lots of events. And the thing is, I ask people, have you ever been trained how to run a business? And no one ever has, not at school, not at college, not at university. Very few people ever get trained how to run a business. And if I look back, I'd have learned how to run a business much, much earlier. I learned how to run a business. My 8-pillar framework is about running a business. And what I say to a lot of people is, in fact, forget the property strategy. I'll teach you how to run a business. Happens to be a property development business, but that's what I'm going to teach. I'm going to teach you to be the CEO of a property development business. And that is so fundamental that if I'd have understood that years ago, there's so many more. I'm definitely not complaining. I retired 15 years ago. So there's so many more things I could have done or would have been easier. I learned from the School of Hard Knocks, but you guys don't have to. And so I think what I'd have done, because there never was, the YPNs of this world and all the training that's available out there to you never existed in property. If I'd have got that opportunity years ago and twigged about being a CEO and followed someone else's framework, I'd have got on much quicker. And I wouldn't have made the mistakes and lost some of the money that I did on the way. Yeah, I made some good money, of course. But that's probably what I would do, learn how to run a business. Good question.
Oh, I think we've just got one more. What do you think is the most important factor that separates successful developments from those that struggle? Developers, than those that struggle.
I'm going to go back to that comment I made earlier. Okay. It's ones that listen, but the other bit is mindset. And we talk about that a lot. And that's a bit of an analogy that I use. And so this is quite difficult. This is quite a challenge to do. It's quite simple because it's part of a process, but it's easier to buy a buy-to-let and earn 300 quid a month. Of course it is. It's not going to get you where you want to get to. Is there going to be some hard work trying to earn £800,000? Of course there is. But I think the difference then is how you do it. So if I say if you've got to get on the diving board, the big top diving board, and you've got to get up there and you've got to jump off. Well, if you listen to me, because this is what it could be like, it could be quite scary. Oh my word, it's quite exciting. I know a lot of you are excited tonight, and it's going to be a scary journey. But that's why you want someone to hold your hand. That's the most important thing, to have people hold your hands and guide you. And that's a big thing that Property CEO is about. It's about working with you, guiding you and steering you. Some of you probably know our students out there, pretty well known in the industry. And the thing I think then is, you've got to go up that diving board and you've got to jump off. The education and support that you need is for someone to make sure that you can hit the water in the right direction. You're not going to break your back. There's enough water in there. You've got the confidence to do it right. You're not going to clip your neck on the way. It's all that thing, and almost someone jumping with you. And so I think that mindset, confidence, education, that's the bit, if you listen, gets you the success. The problem, people, are twofold. Those that are nervous and procrastinate and get up and they're on the edge of the diving board and they're looking off and they're, oh, I'm not sure, I'm not really listening, and I know you're holding my hand, but no, I can't do it. And they go back and they walk back down the steps and they never go off the diving board. And you've seen that. You know, I don't know if we're all kids and teenagers, you'd have seen that. Maybe you were the one that walked up that diving board and went, oh, no, I'm not doing that. And then the other crazy ones are the ones that go, yeah, diving board, that's great. We've got the steps, they come across and they just jump. But they never listen to the education. No one was holding their hand. And on the way down, they're going, oh my word, is there any water in that? I don't know how to hit the water. I'm not sure I can even swim. How deep is that water? And those are the ones that, again, it's a mindset problem, is they're too enthusiastic and they didn't listen. So there's an analogy to tell you those that are successful and those that are not.
Amazing. Do you know what, Richie? I've absolutely loved it tonight. I've loved it. I love your new setup. It's fantastic.
Thank you very
love it.
much.
Absolutely love it. I think, to be honest, we've actually answered everybody's questions. But like I said, guys, this is a fantastic opportunity. Richie is incredible. The feedback we get is insane. And like I said, Richie has done this because he is a long-term friend of YPN and, like I said, a regular contributor. So guys, please take up this opportunity. You will not be disappointed. It's 3 incredible days. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else you would like to say before we round up.
Well, if you're not, I'm not trying to get you to subscribe to YPN, but if you haven't, or even if you have, go back. I think it was the August edition. I can't remember that we had 2 of our students that were actually in there, featured in there. 2 different students. Auburn, I think, has been one of them. Another guy, Fenabo. Have a read of those 2 articles of our 2 students. There'd be people that started like you. They've been on the fast track event. They've gone on and they've changed their lives. So have a read of that. So if you haven't read it, if you're not a subscriber, grab that magazine. I'm not sure what their deals are at YPN, but it's well worth it. And have a read of those 2 students. If you're here and you're sat listening to this and this has inspired you, have a read of their story. That might just inspire you a bit more before you come and join us on the fast track.
Amazing. So I'm just going to interrupt. Sorry, Claire, you've just said you've just booked. It's actually incomplete, lovely. I think you'll probably need to go into your banking app and just approve it. But you are sitting there ready. So congratulations, Claire. Amazing to have you on board. So excited. Amazing. Guys, thank you so much for a fantastic evening. Richie, as always, it is a pleasure. You are fantastic. I love your enthusiasm. You're amazing. And every time I come on, I learn something else. So thank you so much. Guys, I will keep the chat open for the next sort of 20 minutes or so. So any questions, then please drop it in the chat. And any of you guys that are sitting on the fence, please drop your questions, and I'll be here to answer them, like I said, for the next sort of 20 minutes or so. But fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us, Richie. You're fantastic, amazing. I've loved everything.
Thanks very much. Thank you, everyone. Good night now.
Take care. Bye.